I work out at the university, and there's like, you can legit be like working out and just like people are just smoking weed right there. Everyone just like, I don't. It's illegal, but there's no like second thought to it.
Yeah. Man, buzzing.
But like, cause everyone grows it for themselves, it's like real expensive to like buy.
Yeah. True.
So like, it's like probably more expensive to buy than New Zealand.
Yeah. Buzzy.
My first like time smoking here,
Yeah.
like was like a day after I arrived, and like I hadn't like, this happened in New Zealand as well. Like if I hadn't eaten or like hadn't drunk anything,
Yeah.
and I smoked, like I would like fucking just pass out.
Yeah.
And so like I was like jet lagged, and like these are all my excuses, but it's real. I was jet lagged, like had barely eaten, like barely drunk any water. Fucking go out to this little pub, and like they just like literally smoke out the back. Like there's like an inside and an outside bit, and they were just smoking outside, and they were like, "You want to smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah." Took a hit of the cone and just fell on my ass, like passed out. I was like, what the fuck? Like, just, there were like 10 people in the group as well, so I just completely botsed it. Like, there's never been a bigger bots than that. And, like, I just passed out, but like the first person I stayed with from couch surfing, she's like pretty much my sister now.
Yeah.
She like looked after me and like was like,
Brothers.
"Oh my god, are you alright?" She was like worried as about me. I was like, if she was in
bro.
New Zealand, I just would have said, I was like, nah, I just botsed it. But like, and then like I smoked with her a little bit in the department like after that.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like, I don't need it, like, so it's all good. Like,
man.
fuck, like that was, and that was scary, like, because I was like, after that I was like, if that happens to me like anywhere else, and like I don't have Isabel, like my host, right there, and I'm just in this country and I've got no fucking clue what's going on, yeah, that's game over. So
Yeah. Jesus.
yeah, that was I'm glad that happened right at the start, because then I could like figure out a few things.
Yeah. Fuck. So like before we went Coachella, I stayed with like some relatives of ours, and then the girl, this Samoan, and her boyfriend was like a hard out stoner, and he's like, "Oh, you guys smoke too? Like, oh, cool, man, let's go get some." And then we got some, and I haven't like maybe since back in uni, like. And then I was like, "Oh, I'll be all good." And like Haley was there, and she's like, "Oh, you sure?" I was like, "Nah, I'll be all good." And like did the most overcompensating like for ages, and then I was just like coughing, and I was like, "Oh yeah, bro." And then I just like started like greening out, and I was just like, and then they were talking to me, and I wasn't moving, and then they're like, "Bro, you're right, bro." And then Haley's like, "Connor," and I'm just like, "Yeah." And then they're like, I was like trying to talk, and my brain was working, but my body wasn't, and I was like, "Man, what the fuck?" And then like, they're like, my cousin sort of comes over, and then he's like, "Bro, you all good? Like, look at me." And I was like, "Yo," and he's like, "Nah, he's still in there. I can see through his eyes, like, he's there. His body's just not moving. Like, no one's ever died from weed. Like, he's not gonna die." Like, Haley was like freaking out. And I was just like, I need a bowl. And then I threw up in a bucket, and then I woke up the next day, and I was like, all good. And she's like, "Are you alright?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm great, man." And she's like, "Bro, you're like skitzing out, like just like paralyzed last night."
It's like pretty much the same, because I like fucking just bossed out, and then I woke up, like it was like 5 seconds, and I woke up and I was like, "Yeah, what's cracking?"
Man, I spent like 10 minutes trying to write one sentence on my phone, like, "Remember this feeling," and I like couldn't type, kept backspacing, like spelling wrong. I was like, "Man, what the fuck's going on?" Oh man, that Cali weed,
like,
bro.
Have you smoked in the Netherlands?
Yeah, I think we got like given the tourist shit. It was just yuck. Just
Yeah.
tasted like smoke. It was yuck.
Because like I think there's like a difference in like the quality between the like, because they were the Chileans that like gave us the weed were like, oh like is the Chilean weed like what's the comparison to New Zealand weed? And I was like, fuck, like I don't know, like I've never really been like judged at, like I've been like,
Yeah.
did this weed get me high? Yeah, so okay, I've never been able to be like, yo, this is like weak ass, like it's,
Hard.
whatever weed I've smoked has got me high, so that's all I know. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know. And then like next minute I'm on my ass. I was like, yeah, your weed's pretty good, like.
It's alright.
Indeed. Rightio, let's begin.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Kia ora and welcome to the Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast with young Obi-Wan Kenobi, aka Scotty Mills, and the Dutch freak, Mr. Feles. Are you the only Samoan in the Netherlands, Connor?
Nah, I played a league game over here, and then there was a good dude who just looked real Samoan, and I talked to him and he was speaking Dutch to everyone, and then he started speaking English, and I was like, bro, he had that Samoan like American accent that they have when they speak English. I was like, bro, this guy's Samoan, man. And then yeah, he was pretty big and pretty Samoan, but very Dutch, and it was a really confusing situation we had.
Did he speak like fob? Like, was it weird because he's like a Dutch fob or no?
Nah, like, I think he said he moved when he was like 5 he went from Samoa to New Zealand and then to the Netherlands, his whole family. So like, he feels real Dutch and like cracks Dutch jokes, and it just looks real weird watching him speak Dutch, but it's like Samoan faces. But then he still like laughs like a Samoan, like real high pitched and like just cheeky like a Samoan. It was funny, man.
That's a weird thing, like being here in Chile, like 'cause I like coach like a school like hockey program. I just help out, and if like someone does something funny, I'll just bust out like a real loud, and like usually in New Zealand, everyone else like that would be followed, or it would like be part of just like laughter, like typical like Māori or Polynesian or like just weird New Zealand laughter where everyone's like high pitched and just cracking up, but then like it's just like so out of place here, and I'm like real self-conscious about like how I laugh because it's just like it's not normal, but it's like, yo, that was real funny, like why aren't we all like cracking up? And it's like everyone's giggling, everyone's like oh fuck.
Oh man, yeah, that's probably what I miss the most about Islanders, is just like laughing and everyone just cracking up at something stupid, and just having those guys whose laugh makes everyone else laugh, and everyone's just a bit serious and a bit tribal sometimes over here.
Do you watch much Johnny Tuivasa Sheik like on YouTube?
I did for a little while. I haven't.
Because I watched his videos, like, I went on a rabbit hole just watching his videos, and like there's not a whole lot of stuff that I watch, like comedies, or like I don't like crack up watching stuff like life situations. I crack up, but like he was some of his videos just make me crack up at, like I don't know what it is, but it's just like he's just so funny.
Yeah, nah, he's got that like, I don't know, just the way he talks as well. It like just makes you want to laugh. Like it's like you know someone like that back home, and they just like are the funny guy, tell all the jokes, and you just like click with it. Like fuck.
There was another like I remember these times I laugh because they're kind of rare. Like when something really makes me laugh.
Serious guy.
I just like, well, bro, like everyone I'm speaking fucking Spanglish over here. I can't crack jokes in Spanglish, and if anyone's making a joke, it's probably about me over here, so it's not like we can laugh together. It's kind of like I'm laughing at myself because I don't understand the joke they've made like about the gringo. So
Gringo.
But it's like Gary V, he was like posing for pictures, and when he poses for a picture, he's like, he holds up a 5, like instead of, you know, like peace or like
Yeah.
Crips or Bloods, like,
Yeah.
or the Kiwi like sweet as, he just holds
Yeah.
up a 5, like 5 fingers, and he's
Okay.
like posing for pictures, and he holds up the 5, and like some dude shakes his hand, like real awkward, because the dude thinks he's like ready for a handshake, and then Gary Vee goes up to the camera, he's like, when I hold up the 5, do not shake my hand. And then the next photo, he holds up the 5 and some dude shakes his hand. And he just looks at the camera like evils. And I'm like, fuck, and cracking up laughing. But that was just... Maybe I'll have to remember every time I laugh and just recount the stories, because laughter is the medicine of the world.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's those you kind of have to be there ones, eh?
It's definitely, you have to be there. But as long as I was there, so that's all that matters, you know.
Oh, fair enough.
How was that Dutch league game, by the way?
That was cracker, man.
Guess
I
you
pretty
had to be
much,
there.
yeah, you had to be there. But like, I didn't even know they had a league team here. Like, I thought they might have rugby. They got a rugby club, and that's pretty much the, like, out of the two codes, the one that actually is recognized as a sport. They don't consider league a sport over here, so they get like no funding and like have to ask the rugby people to use their grounds, kind of thing. But like the quality, man, like to be honest, it isn't much worse than the like reserve, like second grade, like rugby league that I played back home, eh? Like, well, people are a bit fitter here and they're just a bit more unco because they haven't grown up with the rugby ball, but they still like, if you're fast, you're fast, and if you're big, you're big. So like, it was just funny though. Like, we're playing nines though, because hardly anyone showed up to play, and I was like, man, it was fucking tiring. But like, being able to just run through people, for me, was just crack up, because back home that wouldn't happen. I'd just get hit every time. But then also like, getting hit, like underestimating some people over here too. Like, fuck. It was just. Yeah, like, because if you're big, it doesn't matter if you haven't played rugby, like, you're still just naturally solid, like, man. And I don't know, maybe because they ride bikes over here, and the Dutch are quite tall people, but like, some real lanky and just solid as, like, real gangly, hard to tackle dudes. But they won an international against, like, Norway or Hungary or something, like.
Big up, big up.
Hey?
Big up, big up. Dutch rugby league.
Yeah, so they're pretty stoked about that. But most of and half the team are like expats or people who are from New Zealand who didn't play rugby back home but play it now because, you know, it's not a very big sport, so they could do pretty well over here.
It's a weird one, like how sport is set up and like the sporting opportunities, because when I came to Chile, like, you think football is going to be everywhere. You think like it's just crazy football country, and it is. Like, everyone's got a football compared to everyone having a rugby ball in New Zealand, but there's no football fields. There's like any like football is played on like just dirt, like a dirt field, or that like hybrid like AstroTurf stuff that a few sports fields in New Zealand have, but like over here it's way more common to have like that turf, but it's not turf, it's like a hybrid. It's kind of like artificial grass, so that's way more common. And then that's like real good because there's no hockey turfs, there's not many hockey turfs, but any hockey that we play, like if we go out of town to go like on a little trip to play the different cities, all the hockey games are on those artificial football turfs. So it's like they literally don't have sporting like grass fields. And that's kind of because like sport other than football is like real elitist. So I don't know if there's like that social class of sport in the Netherlands, but like any sport that isn't football in Chile is like, you got to be high class, you got to be elite, you got to have like go to the rich schools to get that more European influence.
Whoa.
So they have like better facilities, whereas like just around town there's just nothing. There's no like, even like the football facilities around town are like uh, what's the mini football, like concrete courts, or like the artificial turf. So it's like it's just weird. Like it's completely different.
Buzzy. Over here, like, I guess, well, there are like a lot more, like, there's a lot more grass and just fields here. We train at where the I Am Amsterdam sign is. We train on just the grass there because we don't have a league club. So Amsterdam really struggles as well because people are only here for short term, so they're always struggling for numbers. But in regards to like social hierarchy, they give some things a go. Like there's like basketball courts and gymnasiums and stuff, and soccer fields, and it was actually like a legit rugby field that we played our league match at, with posts and everything like all marked out. It was a rugby ground though. They consider league as just a part of rugby, so they don't. All the funding goes straight to rugby, and league doesn't really get anything. But like my girlfriend some expats started a netball team over here in Amsterdam, and they just play one other city who was like other expats set up a rival club, and they're not accepted as a real sport either. So every time they set up a court, they have to tape out the court over the basketball lines or like indoor whatever lines, and bring their own posts for the netball hoops. It's just stuff like that, which I guess in Commonwealth countries is a bit more taken for granted, that there'll be a netball court or something like a rugby field or something where you can just play without having those worrying about actually setting up the field to play. But the things that are big over here is like cycling and like I know motor racing. Like they got that Max Verstappen dude, that Formula 1 driver, I think. He's pretty good. Like I don't even know what else they do here. Rowing. But then like during the winter they do like ice skating, and like speed skating is real big. Even like inline speed skating. They got like roller rinks, like domes, I guess, where people like, race competitively on rollerblades, which is weird because I thought rollerblades died like after the 90s, but apparently people still do it.
Right, the Dutch love their hockey as well. Like I just watched
oh yeah, hockey too.
New Zealand play Dutch. The women in hockey, they love their hockey. The inline skating. That's the other weird thing, is that like people are just so eager to give something a go. So like whether it's like I feel the like having to mark you out your own court and stuff like that, because that's the same thing here. Like there's no facilities, so you just literally find a grass field, and it's not a field, it's just like somewhere where there is a patch of grass, and you just like set up what you want to set up. So like people just set up a yoga place, or they set up like a self-defense or like a meditation, or whatever the sport or activity is. But there's literally like 50, like on a good day, so like a Friday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon, there's literally like 50 to 100 just in like different little activities in close proximity. And that definitely includes like 35-year-old men learning how to roller skate. Like learning how to roller skate is like just one of the most popular activities, and they're learning because A, they're like shit, and B, they've got like all the gear, like elbow pads, knee pads, helmet, and they're like I was blown away. I was like, why? Like, but it's so cool because everyone is like so keen to learn something. That's I guess the bigger picture, broader narrative of it all is that people are just so willing to learn something new. But it's just so funny watching these people like just learn how to roller skate. It's like, bro, like, are you having like your midlife crisis or something? Like, what's going on here? But they're just so keen to learn something.
Yeah, like because there's a few, like lots of Dutch people that are trying to learn rugby and like league. Like it's crazy, like grown men over 30, and it's the first time they've passed a rugby ball, and they're just like, but they're giving it a go, and they come to the games and they play. Like they're not very good, but the fact that there's no like shame or embarrassment here if you're not good at something, it's just cool that you're trying it, which I know New Zealand could learn a bit from. Like fucking stop being so elitist with rugby and everything, and like chastising people if they're shit at a sport. Like, yeah, especially like social sports, just like indoor netball and stuff, and people go real serious about that shit. And it's like, bro, it's just a game. It's social. Like, you want more people playing? Like, make it fun instead of like being so competitive. Like,
Yeah, it's a weird one because we're like, I definitely think now we're super competitive because like here, like in Netherlands, like there's just, as you said, like people are just like keen to have a go. Whereas in New Zealand, everything turns into a competition. But then you think of Kiwis and you think like they're not competitive, like they're anti-competition in a way, like on a international kind of level. But then again, like Kiwis only achieve what they achieve in a professional, international, Olympic kind of standard of sport because they have that neck level like competitive spirit, like punching above their weight. Like you're here to really compete. You're not here to just make up the numbers sort of thing. So Kiwi sport probably wouldn't be what it is without that super aggressive competitive nature in social sporting context.
yeah. But I think it little starts at like a grassroots level, like how serious parents get about, you know, an under-10s game and like just abuse refs and shit. Like that, and it's already at that level. Like if, you know, it doesn't matter if you're having fun anymore. If you're not any good, you know, you're gonna be cut from the team, or like, you know, and it just, there's probably a lot of kids, you know, who could have kept playing and had fun and built the numbers in the older grades, but they're put off at such a young age. You know, like they weren't going to be All Blacks or like even RIP level players, but they were going to provide numbers, like the whole population thing, just to keep the sport alive. You know, which, well, I look back at the league club that I played at in Ellerslie, and it's just struggling for numbers, and they're, you know, they're not never going to get out of second division. Like, oh, it's all combined now, but they're never going to be competing. Yeah, they're never going to be competing at that top level just because there's never enough numbers. And like the juniors come through pretty well, and then they go off to other clubs. And if you're really good, you go over to Australia and try to crack it over there. There's, yeah, it's just, it's like, it's more like a job. And I guess in that seriousness and competitive side, like takes the fun out of things, and then people get disinterested because like a lot of people do, like sports is still a game to them. They do it for fun. Like I play sports for fun. You know, it's fun to win, but at the same time, if you're not having fun, you know, at all, even when you are winning, then what's the point of playing a game?
Well, that's I think that's a major difference, is that in New Zealand you've got to be part of a club, whereas like what I've learned is that they just like here they just like meet up, like it's just like have a Facebook group or a WhatsApp chat, or like you just know someone and then you just meet up at a place and you're playing that sport. Like there's no requirement to, oh, you've got to go sign up to the club, you got to go pay your fees, you got to have a structure, you got to go to trainings, you got to play on the weekend. No, like if you're playing it for social reasons, you just show up one day at a set time and then you're playing the game. There's no like we need to work on this today, we need to do this, we need to do this, last week we were this. Like it's just not, no, let's just show up and play the game. Like that's what I'm here for, is to hang out with people, have a community and play the game. And like I don't know what it is here, but everyone's real keen to like be part of a community.
Yeah.
I'd like maybe in a few months time I'll be able to understand some like historical context to that, but whatever it is, and it's like whether it's just meeting new people, whether it's learning something, whether it's meditation, whether it's you know, kendo. There was a kendo thing. There's fucking everything, and everyone just like wants to be involved. Like even coming off of that, like because I work out at the university, and like I like to hang out at the university, the major university in Concepcion, just because there's a real cool vibe, and like there's so many people and there's like so many activities going on. Everyone's in a good mood. It's quite a like it's quite old, so you got some nice architecture. It's just a cool place to be. And when I walk, there's like a place that like has like reflective windows, so you can see your reflection in the window, and like along that walkway is just like it's just 50 meters of people dancing. And
I
like
see.
that's yet like in New Zealand you'd be told, no, please don't do that here, you're disturbing us.
Mm.
And these people just do it like every day, but they're not university students. Like some of them are young as, like they're just school kids who just like that's the best place to dance, and like maybe they're dancing by themselves, maybe they're dancing as a trio or a group, and it's like, are you like training for like my Kiwi mind? I'm like, are you training for a competition or like what? Like what are you doing? But they're probably just like doing it for fun. And then you walk around the corner and there's like just a salsa group just practicing salsa, and it's just like everyone's just keen to like do something.
Yeah, that's what I feel New Zealand's really lacking is like that community aspect and getting people together doing stuff for fun. It's not there anymore. And like you said, like all the administrative costs for like clubs and stuff, and all this regulations of doing stuff. Like I don't know what happened. That's do people work too hard that they don't have time to just meet up with friends and like kick the ball around or do something? People, even like some of my friends, no one wants to come kick the ball around unless there's a certain amount of people coming. Like, oh, who's coming? Is the question you ask if you go, oh, do you want to go like to park, kick the ball around? They're like, oh, who's coming first? Like, it's just everyone's like doesn't want to waste their time kind of thing. But it just puts them off, puts me off, and then no one ends up doing anything, and then it sucks because you end up just complaining and wishing that you had that community thing, and you don't you feel like you tried but nothing came out of it. And I don't know how New Zealanders can bring it back. Then I don't know, is it a population thing, just like numbers, getting people, because people work way too hard in New Zealand, man. Like not hard, but like the hours and the time, the percentage of your life that you give up to working is not, it's not worth it, and it's not a healthy balance. Like people work hard over here too, but they don't work nearly as long as New Zealanders do. And there's so much more to life and like the social aspects after work, outside of work, that it's a much more enjoyable work-life balance over here, which I don't know, does that come from the people? Does it come from the government? Like, I don't know, I'm curious to find out over here, but it's just, it's something that I wish that we had back home in New Zealand. Like, your life doesn't have to be about working the most hours and getting the most money. Like, there's so much more enjoyable aspects about life.
Well, that's where the like having an activity is so important, because you switch off. Like you're like in a mindfulness kind of context. You're leaving your head and you're like solely like existing in your body. So you're not thinking about like what you're going to have for dinner. You're not thinking about like what happened at work today. You're not thinking about like, oh, this person said this to me, so like blah blah blah. You're not thinking about anything except like catching the ball, or perfecting the dance routine, or why this dude is so serious defending you, because it's kind of annoying. Like you're only existing in the here and now. And I think like that's what probably most people lack when they don't do that regular activity. And it's like in that situation, like, because that's definitely a case. Like when you're like, yo, we're gonna go, play a game of cricket. We're gonna kick a ball around. We're gonna do this, do that, and it's for sure. It's the first thing you met is who's going. But instead of thinking like, oh, is it gonna be worth my time? Well, and it's an activity. So regardless of who is there, it's going to be worth your time, because you're going to be moving your body. You're going to be, you're going to be existing in the here and now. You're going to be mindful. You're going to be using your instincts, your reflexes. You're going to be like working your body in a way that you didn't work it, at work at your job or whatever. So automatically there's a benefit. Whereas you only think like, oh, it's going to be worth my time because this person's not going to be there, so it's not going to be as funny as it would otherwise be. Like even if it's just one-on-one, like you're just like, no one else can come that day, and it's just you and me.
Mm.
or that you're still gonna like it's still gonna be worthwhile. You're still gonna get something out of it.
Yeah, I guess people just have the wrong mindset about, they always need a reason or a purpose. They, forget that just kicking the ball around is enough purpose. Like being active is enough reason to get outside. You don't need all these other, benefits. It's people have just lost sight of how much being active is worthwhile to your well-being.
But like kicking a rugby ball around is, I dream of it every day. And like I'm real shy, like I'm real timid, and I'm like I need to get out of that bubble, but like it's just hard because like my Spanglish is still terrible. But like I see, and at the university I see people kicking a rugby ball, and I just want to like, I'm not the type of person just roll up and be like, yo, can I join you? And I'll be the man. Like, but like that's what I want to do, is just like hang out and like fucking chuck a couple bombs up, throw some spiral passes, like do shit like that. Whereas like it's so rare to just see a rugby ball over here, so it's like fuck, like I just like that's probably the one thing I miss the most, is just being like in a park, rolling through like all the random shit you can do with a rugby ball.
Huh. Yeah, I miss, like there's one or two rugby balls that the whole team has, and I keep trying to like take it home because like just having the ball in your hands, you just feel like connected, and like, just the possibilities are endless when you have a ball. I guess it's like with, in countries where people love soccer and having a soccer ball, like even if they don't have a ground, just like juggling it, like kicking it around the street, like it's, you get that buzz from it. So, but unless you have it, you just feel like you're missing a part of yourself almost. Like, man. Yep. Yeah, just that, I don't know, that freedom, like back home. I don't know, maybe it's because I live down the road from the park too. To just, yeah, you sort of take it for granted because you don't do it as much when you're home. But now that you don't have it, you're just like, fuck, wish I could go to the park and just, muck around with the ball, or even just, yeah, like I love the grass, man. Like there's some nice parks, but I gotta ride my bike there or walk a little bit to get there. It's, not the same as going to a park where sports is happening, or like there's a field. Like these are just nice walking around or running through, jog through parks. Not like a big nice flat area for you to enjoy yourself, like with a ball or playing sport or something.
Yeah, they're just like patches of grass, not like a field or something that's designed for sport.
Yeah, or just, they're really nice to look at, like lots of trees and stuff and nice pathways through it, but sometimes you just want to run around in it, like in a big paddock, like a big space. It's just all grass.
One topic I don't want to explore is because in the past, in the space of, and it's funny because it's a binary situation. You had the Samoan Rugby Union go bankrupt, and then Tonga shocked the rugby league world by beating New Zealand. So like it's kind of a binary, rugby union versus rugby league, and then Samoa versus Tonga. Like it's not a good week for Samoa. But then you also had Samoa just before recording this, they got smoked by Australia, and they've been kind of shit throughout the whole Rugby League World Cup. So like on the back of what we were talking about in the episode 1, just getting some insight and information, wisdom about the Pacific Islands and stuff that like a lot of Kiwis don't understand how this stuff operates, or why there's always issues around the Samoan Rugby Union. And I think like I kind of have a slight understanding, but I think for a lot of Kiwis, they just see how it's portrayed. So they just see the Samoan Rugby Union, it's not just that they've gone bankrupt, like they've had a lot of issues for a long time, but that's kind of swept under the rug of being because other rugby unions or the international body don't like look after them in terms of giving them money or giving them funding or giving them ticket sales. So the problem kind of is put back on other people, that's just the perception that I think a lot of Kiwis have, is that it's not the fault of Samoan rugby union or the systems in Samoa. So is that perception true, or is there certain aspects of the Samoan rugby union and Samoa where a lot of these problems are kind of created by themselves and how these governing bodies operate within Samoa?
Yeah, I think it's corrupt, man. The Prime Minister's corrupt. The whole government's corrupt.
Straight up and down, like playing around
nah,
with
man,
bullshit.
like straight up.
Out the gate.
Like even all those years ago when after they had that big tsunami, and then all the like aid went over to Samoa, and then John Campbell went over and he's like, "Where's the money gone?" He like interviewed my dad's mate at the airport, and then John Campbell's like, "Fred, like, where's the money gone?" And then Fred's like, "Oh, come on, Campbell, you know where it's gone." John's like, "No, I don't. Where is it gone?" He's like, I don't know. It's such a small place, and like you give them a bit of money and a bit of power, and they just start going crazy. Not all of them, but he shouldn't be the Prime Minister. I can't really talk. I'm not in Samoa, so I don't know the good things he has done for the country. But the rugby union, the fact that the Samoan, like, they're bankrupt, it's not because they didn't get enough money. It's because they didn't handle the money well. When the players were struggling for flights and accommodation, this goes back like to before the last World Cup, or probably even earlier. So I don't know, they gave them the money, like, oh yeah, we can look after ourselves, but then people just, I don't know, take the money and run, or just exploit the players especially. And it sucks because how's a game supposed to grow in one of the best like nurseries, the Pacific, where so many great players come from? How are you supposed to develop the game back in where they come from, and the people in charge are just taking advantage of it and fucking everyone over? It's pretty shit. And then the Samoan Rugby League, I don't know, it's more, I guess, run by ex-NRL players and NRL affiliated people, so they have that understanding of how a governing body should work. So they don't get a lot of funding, but in regards to the quality of players right now, it's like corrupt too. Like, not corrupt, but it's just like a bunch of old like has-beens, not has-beens, but like past their prime, just all playing together. Like, I don't know if the selection process went well, or there weren't enough people wanting to play for Samoa, but they seem like a bunch of guys thrown together who happen to be Samoan, and there's, they can't compete in fitness levels, like, and that's why they got smashed like 48-0 against the Australians today. It could have been worse, but go Tonga and Fiji.
Yeah, I think the Samoan like performance in this World Cup is like kind of just a bad. It's just a culmination of like not having the quality of players and weird selection decisions. So I think it's kind of like if you put certain players in that team, they're going to be better. Like if you have Manu Brown and Anthony Milford as your halves combination, Samoa are going to be better than Jerome Luai and fucking Ben Roberts. Like,
Ben Roberts.
So there's like, he's still playing rugby league. What's doing? So I think that's just a weird situation of them not having a good World Cup. But I've been real interested in like how rugby union and rugby league are positioning themselves in the Pacific Islands, because I think we're starting to see, like, I'm investing in the future of rugby league. So rugby league is already growing steadily within Aotearoa, and we're going to see more and more Kiwis in the NRL. But then what I see the NRL and rugby league doing is actually investing in the Pacific Islands. So they're not only giving these nations like more international football. That's a real superficial way of looking at it. Like, everyone celebrates Pacific Island Rugby League because of the number of international tests they play. That's superficial. What is also happening is that NRL clubs and the NRL are going to the Pacific Islands, and they are setting up programs. They're setting up like academies to get the best players, and it's one thing to like want the best players to come play for your club, but you also need to give the community and that environment like something back. And like all the programs that do this are giving back as well. So I think that's where rugby union's kind of dropping the ball, as they say, because the Samoan Rugby Union, for example, is bankrupt and they're going backwards. But there's going to be more in like the rugby league's investment in Samoa is, I don't know, it's not astronomical right now, but it's only going to increase in the future.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it's like Fiji is the number one spot. So the Canberra Raiders have set up an academy. Brad Fittler and Joey Johns go to Fiji every year. You've got different programs like that. But that's going to move into Samoa and Tonga fairly quickly. And like it's coinciding with rugby union, like just not caring. Like all the rugby union stories you hear about are like European clubs exploiting Polynesians, the Samoan Rugby Union going bankrupt, and the All Blacks or Super Rugby, like they take a game there, but when they take a game there, it's always like something wrong. There's something wrong. They're like, oh, should we have a Samoan Super Rugby team? Should we, why weren't there, the tickets were overpriced? Like, it's just, you don't hear about the NRL taking games to Samoa. Like, that's not happening. But what is happening is they are at like the grassroots level setting up foundations, and I think that's the major difference. And I reckon it's going to be hugely different in 5 years. In 5 years' time, rugby league is going to run those countries.
Yeah.
On the strength of what the NRL is doing and rugby league is doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's rugby league is definitely taking the bottom up approach as opposed to rugby, which gave them a lot of money and expected, could build them a fancy facility or whatever, buy lots of gear and training equipment, and then just sort of, gave them the tools and then expected them to be able to build something with it. Whereas the NRL has come in with, people and trusted processes and working their way and building a more stable structure at the bottom, which, will end up making a better product in the end. But I think, it's a lot to do with the NRL, and which is, still only essentially a domestic competition as opposed to world rugby, and where they sort of, split everyone apart as different countries, and whoever's running the NRL really has that acknowledgement and appreciation for even like indigenous cultures in Australia, as well as the Pacific Islands, and these, I know they feel that responsibility to give back to those smaller groups and nations, those minorities, whereas rugby is already so big, they just want to throw money at a problem rather than, look at more efficient ways to use that money and, bring people in, or processes and structures to actually help develop the game. Because at the end of the day, the rugby union, especially all the European clubs, they have the money to just buy players and bring them over, and or bring players to New Zealand and then give them a chance of becoming All Blacks, because that's the pinnacle of rugby. Whereas in league, besides Australia and sort of England, New Zealand, like the fact that Tonga beat New Zealand is reinforcing that the Pacific nations and the minorities can, be themselves and not end up in the situation where rugby, where their best players that have grown up in other countries are assigned to Australia or New Zealand or England. Like, I just feel, I hope that, I'd like to believe that you're right, that in 5 years, rugby league will be the dominant rugby code in the Pacific Islands. They're putting a lot more effort into making that happen, and I guess it's because it is the fact that league is a much smaller game than rugby internationally, and because there's so much talent around the Pacific, which could easily go to rugby, that they're working hard and putting you know, putting faces out there that people can see that, you know, oh, come play league, you know, we'll do this for you guys, we're here, we have a presence in the village, rather than some faceless organization just giving money to a country and then filtering that down to the players who don't really know what they're receiving from the rest of the world, or the, you know, the world rugby.
Yeah, you look at the players, not just the Tongan players, but all the NRL players who turn out for Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji, and then you think of like the Polynesian players in the All Blacks and the Wallabies. Like, none of those players who want to play for the All Blacks, like Vaea Fafita or Tuipulotu, or, you know, those Polynesian All Blacks, playing for Samoa or Tonga, like, isn't in their mind. Like, it's just not a situation that they have even, you know, comprehended yet. So how can Pacific Island Rugby Union be going in a positive direction when that's not happening, when it's happening in rugby league? Like, there's no real desire from those players to sacrifice their All Blacks standing to play for to play for pure pride and passion. So it's like it's pretty much the exact same scenario. Like, you're turning down a lot of money when you choose to play for Samoa or Tonga over the Kiwis or Kangaroos in rugby league, and you're turning down a shitload of money when you choose to play for Samoa or Tonga instead of the All Blacks. In one code, that sacrifice is happening, and in the other code, it's definitely not happening. So it's just funny to see how, like, binary the opposites are in either code.
Yeah, that's where the eligibility rules come in, and people get all like butthurt about being able to change nations and stuff. But it's like, but these guys are Tongan, they are Samoan, they are Fijian, and they are Kiwis and Australians too. Like, you're not, you know, there's so much more diversity. They're half caste, you know, or they're from the islands and they were born in New Zealand. They're still as much, you know, Pacific Islander as they are New Zealand. You don't have to choose one and ignore the other. Like, it's a real frustrating argument with people who are just like, no, they're Kiwis or they're not. And then it's just like, well, what the fuck is a Kiwi, you know? It's, yeah, frustrating.
Yeah, we'll move it out of like a sporting context, because I'm sure people don't want to hear us talk about sport the whole time. But like, I think it points to like a more like a migration situation where, as you said, like, what is a Kiwi? Well, we're so, like, going back to episode 1 with the food, like, we've got so many different international influences in Aotearoa that the definition of a Kiwi person is just, it's hard to define. It's hard to come up with. And, like, in the sporting landscape, you're seeing it because there's so many, like, now more than ever, you've got Polynesians who are born in Australia or New Zealand. Like, I can only speak of it in an NRL perspective, but I'd say, like, you know, 70 or 80% of NRL players of Polynesian heritage are born in Australia or New Zealand. And if you're, you know, most young Polynesians now, just in general life, are going to be born in Australia or New Zealand, as opposed to being born and raised in Samoa or Tonga. So it's like, these people are, they've got something that I kind of wish I had. I wish I had those influences. My influences are kind of pretty much strictly European, but then it's been up to me and my open mind to embrace more of the Māori culture, to embrace, you know, Polynesian through my South Auckland upbringing. So, like, it's been my open mind that has allowed those influences to come in. Whereas if you're a Tongan born in Australia, you've got like an Australian upbringing along with your strong Tongan culture. Like, you've got the joys of everything, as opposed to just having like both my parents, or even compared to, like, I'd love to be full Samoan, born and raised in Samoa, and just live on the islands. Like, my goal in life is to spend a long time in the Pacific Islands. Like that would be pretty awesome. But the the perspective you would gain from being like a Samoan born in Australia compared to a Samoan who has only lives in Samoa and hasn't been, outside the Pacific Islands, like you've already got an advantage. You've already got something that all your family back in Samoa, your people in Samoa don't get to experience. So you've got like different influences, different perspectives, building you as a person.
I feel it is like, it is a funny thing. Like you have to acknowledge where you've been brought up and the opportunities presented to you, like growing up in the Western world, and just the access to education, healthcare, and everything, and just more opportunities to prosper, and like different opportunities that aren't necessarily there in the islands. So you owe that to Australia and New Zealand, and it's something that I don't know, that people who aren't from the Pacific Islands never, or don't never, but find it hard to understand. That yes, we acknowledge, islanders acknowledge, like, thank you New Zealand, thank you Australia for all this, this opportunity and prosperity you've provided for us or allowed us to obtain. But you still have, like, belong to the islands as well, just as much. Like it's a weird concept that people who aren't from the islands just can't seem to grasp, that you can still feel as much as an islander without being there. And I don't know how to get people to understand it. Because I'm just like, we are Kiwis. I'm a New Zealander first because I'm born in New Zealand, raised in New Zealand, but I'm also Samoan because of my dad. And then, I can't just say, I don't like just saying I'm a Kiwi, I'm a New Zealander, because in saying that it denies my dad and him being Samoan and being born in Samoa and moving to New Zealand as he's young. So it's not that, I want to like weaken my New Zealand, not weaken, but change my status as a New Zealander. It's just acknowledging my other side so that I'm not denying them at the same time. I don't know,
And to Mickey, I want to know about Dutch food. Like, tell me about what the Dutch people eat on in their day-to-day lives, and then more of go out and buy a meal, or like street food or restaurant food. Like, what is the Dutch diet? Like, we've got like stereotypes of what different countries eat. So like, Mexican people love tacos, or Japanese people love sushi, whatever it is. But there is literally no stereotype in my mind of what Dutch people eat.
Bro, because they have such a a boring traditional food landscape. It's so international here. Like people love lots of other cultures, like food, like we do in New Zealand. They also have a lot of Indonesian influence in their food, or like just Indonesian food, because they have a colony in Indonesia. It was a colony of the Dutch, so a lot of people brought that food back as well. But traditionally Dutch are real basic, for breakfast, like bread and like ham and cheese, or like hagelslag, which is like chocolate hail on toast or like bread. And like it goes along with their real tight stereotype, real stingy, that they eat like the most basic foods for to survive on, and then they got lots of sweet stuff here, like apple pies and tarts, and like stroopwafels, which is like sort of like a a thin wafer, and then like caramel, and then another wafer, sort of biscuit type thing, and then like lots of chocolate, and I guess for dinner stews and stuff, just sort of hearty, and potatoes, and sausages, I guess like German sort of food, but you don't say German here because they're Dutch and they're different. But
Get a slap.
yeah, it's yeah, I guess, and it also maybe it was before the war, but it also goes back to the war where things were real tight, and so they're very well disciplined over here. So they sort of it's reflected in their diet and just a real basic fundamental diet of bread, a bit of meat, a bit of cheese, and then some sausage and potato. Oh, they do have. Have you ever had white asparagus?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they got white asparagus over here. It only goes for like maybe 3 or 4 months of the year, over the summer, and then they have that with like other steamed vegetables, I think, and potato and an egg and ham. Yeah, like white asparagus. It's not as strong as normal asparagus. It's pretty weird, but that's something that's a bit unique about here, I guess. And like street food, frites, which are just fries with like mayo and ketchup, like freshly cut fries, deep fried, and then people just walk around with them in a cone and just eat them, like everyone does, like old Dutch people, or like young expats, and yeah, that's pretty much the entire landscape of food I've noticed while I've been here, besides all the international restaurants and stuff here.
And what's the price of like a basic food item, like I don't know, like a cup of coffee? So like a cup of coffee, I drink black coffee.
Yeah.
Over here, you're looking at anywhere between $1 to $2.50 New Zealand dollars. $2.50 is the max.
Shit.
$1. It's so weird because like so many places sell coffee, but it's like literally just the coffee you get from the supermarket. So like you're paying them to boil some water and pour it into like instant coffee that you've probably got at home, which is fine. Like I don't care about that because I'm paying for the convenience. Like I'm not at home, I'm out walking around, I need a coffee, or I want a coffee, and I cannot go home, so I'm paying for that convenience. But like it's just funny because I think in especially, and then you've got your other places where like heaps of places do sell like grounded coffee and like coffee beans, but it's just the concept of like buying an instant coffee, like a single instant coffee, so they're the cheapest. Like the price definitely reflects like what you're buying. You're paying like $1.
Yeah.
But like a cup of coffee is max $2.50, and then like food items, like you can buy an empanada or a hot dog, or a hot dog, you're looking at like $3 for a hot dog. So it's just like a lot of the food items are just cheaper. Like, so I'm not, if you can figure out the exchange sort of situation and like what you would pay for just basic food items so people can understand what you're paying for.
Yeah. So I don't drink coffee, but I've I checked out the price of coffee here. It's anywhere from about, I'd say, €250 up to like 5. So that's $4 to $8 New Zealand for a cup of coffee. And because they're real big on coffee here, they pride themselves on good coffee drinkers, and so that's something they're quite proud of. And I guess it is a bit of a novelty thing, like, and people just love coffee like they do in New Zealand, like they do over here. And the price of other just like generic stuff is usually around the frites for like a bag of chips, like French fries from a street vendor will be like €3, €2.50, €3. So yeah, so again about $4 New Zealand, 4 or 5, which yeah, if I think about it, it's pretty expensive now.
Yeah, but that's because like the euros, like you get like half your money.
Yeah, it's like 58 cents. So I just prefer to do double. It's just easier for calculating.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like double minus a little bit, but it's basically double. And um, like I guess for like a maybe half a pint is like 250 euros over here, just of like Heineken, which is I didn't realize it was Dutch. I thought it was German.
She.
Yeah, but it all like it's a real city, so there can be a big price difference, especially if you go closer to the touristy parts in the middle of the city. The prices just get jacked up, and but you can find cheaper places that have good quality if you just look around. There's so many like food and beverage sort of places and bars everywhere around the city. So you know, there's always a good chance you can find something more in your pocket, up your alley, kind of thing.
Have you been able to venture like outside Amsterdam much, like out into the true blue Dutch uh,
Yeah,
farms, or just like smaller towns?
yeah. We went. I went up north to Friesland. You know, like Frisian cows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's where they come from. They're named after the types of cows up in Friesland, and they speak their own language up there. It's called Fries, and it doesn't sound anything like Dutch. Uh, it's real weird. But my girlfriend has some family up there, so we went up there and just like fields and fields of just grass and some cows and windmills and just like super Dutch stuff, but still like canals throughout the land or like throughout farms, which is real buzzy to how like effective they are with managing water. And you know, like yeah, because was it like 60% of the country is below sea level, so much of the land is reclaimed land. And so I don't know, because it's below sea level, there's water would run everywhere. So they've just been so smart over the years that they've been here to be able to come up with systems to like maneuver water throughout whole cities and everything.
It's weird because I went to Concepcion's like right on the coast, so you can't really see the mountains from where I am. But I went of both my like trips with the hockey crew have been to like little towns, and last weekend we went to Chian, which is about an hour inland, and it was like doesn't really rain. Like you might get a day of rain once every 2 weeks or something like that. So it's like clear blue skies most of the time. But you can further inland, it's like the day was stinking hot because it's just sun. It's just pure sun. But then you look up to the mountains and you see snow-capped mountains. So I was tripping out. I was like, fuck, I'm getting sunburnt down here, like, which like you can get sunburnt on the snow, but it's like it's pretty hot. Like everyone's like hustling for some shade. Like all the boys are like, competing to get a little spot in the shade. And then you look up to the mountains and it's just like these glorious, like pristine snow-capped mountains. You're just like, fuck, it's a weird opposite. But because of the mountains, you get like just constant streams of water everywhere. So you don't need to control it like the Dutch, where you're under sea level. But there's just basically a never-ending supply of like that water. And it's not like when you're up in the mountains, it will probably like definitely want to go closer up to the mountains later on. But when you're up in the mountains, I guess it's probably like, real nice water. But they just don't, I guess they don't respect the water, and they don't really have the recycling infrastructure just yet either. So they don't really respect it. So it's like you look at this water just flowing, and because the water, like even in the cities or the towns, the water's just flowing so fast that that water's just come straight down from the mountains and it's gone straight to the ocean. so you know it's like beautiful, you know, mountain water, and then you just see like rubbish everywhere because it's like they just don't like you can't just walk up to it and like put your bottle in and, you know, have a drink, which you'd be able to do up in the mountains. But like anytime that water goes into the city, you know that it's just like it's just getting ravaged with all sorts of shit. But they haven't quite sussed out the well, they have, because there's no floods, but like just the need to control the flow of water and all that. The only other question I have, we can wrap it up fairly soon. So if you've got any life wisdom that you've picked up over the last few weeks, any little gems of something you've learned about yourself, about the world, about people, so we can give our listeners something to apply, something practical to their own lives, as we are silly Kiwi millennials. That's all we do.
Yeah. I know it's been a real humbling experience coming to the Netherlands and looking for a job. Back home when I graduated uni, I kind of felt entitled to get a good job just because I graduated uni, and I sort of, you know, thought that I was better than people who hadn't gone to uni. And then what I realized is, after I couldn't get a job where I wanted, was that I didn't have any experience, and that was what was way more important at that stage. And so I worked, you know, as a courier, as a labourer, a civil engineer, just getting experience. And what I picked up was just an appreciation for how much you can learn by doing stuff, and how intelligent the people who, you know, learn from their jobs are. That you don't just have to go to uni and, you know, get a big fuck off degree to like have some sort of like mental capacity. And then what I learned coming over to the Netherlands was that they study way longer here, they have way more experience in their last year of uni, you know, picking up internships and volunteering at different organizations, and that it's really that culmination of theory and experience that is vital to, I guess, being successful in whatever you want to do. It's really not one or the other, it's a combination of both, which I think that they have a much better infrastructure for providing in the Netherlands. Like back home, it's like go to uni, and then if you don't get a decent paying job, you're basically an intern who works for nothing as you try and work your way up a company. Whereas over here, it's, you know, get the experience in your last year of uni, and then the internships here are more like traineeships. They're trying to offer people jobs with these roles and not just exploit uni students to work for free, pretty much. Because you have to get paid to be an intern over here. So it's just a more working system they have for people coming out of uni, and producing stronger companies with better workers, which I think New Zealand could learn a lot from.
It's weird because like the university degrees here are like way longer. Like we both studied for 3 years, and they're like, people here are, you know, minimum 4 years, mainly 5 years for like any degree. Like not just a more difficult engineering or law degree. Like most of the degrees are just like longer time periods, and it's it's interesting to hear, because like we both didn't get a job out of uni, so like there was just like, and that like it was kind of, but then again, like I've come around to thinking like uni, the concept of university is going to diminish fairly soon. I'm not sure how fast it will happen, but the idea of paying an exorbitant amount of money and going into debt for skills that aren't really applicable to modern life, like there's still going to be a need to learn, you know, niche sort of stuff, like whatever it is. You know, if you're going to be a chef, well, no, like a chef is a good example, because why the fuck are you going to culinary school which is a university for that topic, when you could get a job when you're 16 years old as a kitchen hand washing dishes, and then you're in the system, you have experience, and you're understanding the ways of the kitchen as you build up your experience. And that's sort of the thing, like, you can do anything on social media. Like, you can become, why are you going to university to learn about, we both studied media pretty much, whereas now someone in our position who's just come out of high school is probably better off literally just starting to film shit and put it on YouTube, just starting to record shit and put it in a podcast. Like, why are you studying photography if you can just like walk anywhere and take photos with your smartphone, with your camera? Like, I think the need to study stuff, and, or more importantly, the need to pay so much money to graduate university is just, it's going to be like restricted to people who want to become nurses or teachers, or stuff where you have to, like, you have a really important role in society, so you have to learn how to do that job by the letter of the law and the best way possible, or engineers, or scientists and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of other stuff you can just learn by being willing to do it in your day-to-day life, or just like. But then again, like, a lot of young people don't want to start at the bottom.
Yeah,
they don't have the foresight. That's my little gem, would be to have the foresight to think like 5 years down the track. If you aren't gonna like do that study thing, like, think about 5 years down the track and have foresight, because that makes what you're doing right now, whether it's washing dishes or slaving away cleaning toilets, like, if you've got that 5-year, 10-year vision, what you're doing now doesn't really matter, as long as you're gaining what you need to gain from that.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, that's it. Having a little bit of, foresight that, study isn't always the key. Like, it's not really study that's important. What important is learning. And I feel that so much more useful learning is done through experience and the practical application of stuff, than opposed to just reading about it in theory. It's just like when engineering graduates used to come to the work sites in civil construction and, come with their degree and, tell us this should be that, this should be this. And then my foreman would be like, look at it with your eyes. It's not going to work. Like, just because you've written it down and did these calculations, the real world is so much different to the, this theory world you keep referencing. And so that was a big eye opener for me to just, realize that, it's a bit cheesy, but that whole Unitech thing where theory gets the grades, but practical gets the job. Like, you want someone who knows how to, like, steer a boat, not someone who knows how to, like, has read a book on steering a boat, Yeah,
and to go back to your point, was in the Dutch universities, there's a foresight, there's a vision there, because they understand what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is to get you in the best position possible. So there's enough thought gone into that process that they are, providing the means to do that. Whereas I think a lot of, like, the worst case, not our university, because as you said, like Unitech and like MIT or like some universities, like, put a lot of emphasis on getting the practical skills and actually putting you in situations where there's a tangible benefit in terms of experience. Some universities in New Zealand definitely do that, but the worst case scenario is they just have you studying exams, pass or fail, assignments, pass or fail, study, and ideally you graduate. But what have you actually learned graduating? You've learned how to passed that exam, or you've learned how to do that assignment and execute that specific skill. None of that applies to, in a practical sense, to what you're going to do after university. Even if you're learning like skills that you learnt at university, well, and you get a job after that, well, the person in the job might tell you, fuck everything you learnt at university, this is the way I'm going to do it. So like suddenly everything you learnt at university is like doesn't apply to this job because this company or what this person does it completely different. So then the necessary skill is being able to adapt, or having the self-awareness to know how to fit into situations, or having such a broad range of skills that you can apply those skills in any situation, and it's not the specific skill of doing this or doing that. So it's like that's where I think university doesn't really help you, because it doesn't provide actual practical tangible skills. And even universities that do provide practical situations, they don't teach you about like self-awareness. They don't teach you about learning about yourself and your strengths or weaknesses. They don't teach you what is the best way for you to communicate. That's stuff that you have to figure out through putting yourself in adversity or out of your comfort zone, traveling, working a mundane job, and learning from different people and from different backgrounds, different perspectives, like real general life shit, instead of textbook university sort of vibes.
Yeah. It's pretty much
cowabunga.
Cowabunga, mate.
You got anything else to add, or should we wrap it up there?
Nah, I'll wrap it up there, bro. I got a Skype interview to teach some kids English in China coming up soon.
Well, so you do that from Netherlands?
Yeah, it's just a Skype, like a screening one first. They just want to check me out, but I probably won't do it because the time difference it doesn't work. They're like 7 hours ahead, and it'll be the middle of the day, and if I get any job, it just won't fit.
But the job is teaching people English in China from the Netherlands.
Yeah, from around the world. So yeah, anyway, it's just remote learning teaching.
What the fuck?
I know. I got through an interview once, and she set up a trial class for me, and then the lady emails me like a couple hours later and said, "Oh, sorry, we don't hire people from New Zealand." I was like, "What the fuck?"
Racist.
Bro, I was like, "Oh, but English is our official language. Like I'm a native New Zealand speaker. We're just like Australia." And she's like, "Oh, policy changes above my head. Sorry." And I was like, "Brah."
Fuck New Zealand.
Bro, shut up. I was like, "Do you guys don't like the new Prime Minister or what?" Like.
Damn. All goods, bruh. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Yo, I'll upload my clips into thing.
Fuck,
do you need them or? What?
I was signing up from the podcast.
Oh, fuck. Who are we? Oh, you can edit that out, surely.
Nah, good stuff. Yeah, bruh. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Yo, sweet.
Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast. Fuck with your boys.
Yo.